on Daybreak, we have Mheshimiwa Beatrice Alachi, MP, Dagoretti North, Nelson Harvey, who is a former LSK president, who has also expressed an intent to run.
Once a president, always a president. So Donald Trump came back.
Woman Representative Jane Kagiri, as well as Fred Okango, who is a political analyst, and Javas Bigambo, governance analyst. I'd like to move us along, if you don't mind. And if you look at page, I think it's page 3 of page 5.
Only one man in this country who brings in very unique things, and that is Baba. So when we talk about brings in very unique things, and that is Baba. So when we talk about contracts, I don't know, agreements signed, he's the one, nobody else can do those things. It's only him. So it's something that God just gave him that many people will admire, but we don't have that strength. So we give it to him, and good, the country now moves on. Having said that, first of all, you know I'm a Catholic. And for me, sometimes I find it very sad that the priest and the king will be in such conflict that even in the Bible is not a good thing. That indeed in the Bible, the king was to be blessed by the priest. And so the biggest challenge we face is that how the priest came to find themselves so comfortable with the king, they should also ask themselves. It was very wrong, and that is why we are in this conflict. And I'm hoping in many elections to come, God keep me, that it will never happen again, that the church will just go very in the middle of governments. The church has to come and now be able, when governments are in crisis like this, if the church was neutral, today we would be finding the country move. But you see, you have a congregation who also wakes up and votes. Now, the issue of Soweto is very, very sad because, one, the first monies that were given were for the choir. So it's not for the priest. So I doubt whether the choir will return the money. Let's start from there. They will be questioning. And so that's another thing, you see. And even if you force them, you leave them with something in the heart. They will start questioning so many things because who is the church? The church is the congregation of us who go to church. And we must take care of our churches. And for me, what I'll tell even politicians today, even myself, which I do, is that if you want to give to the church, let us stop taking this thing of money. Take the equipment they've asked you. Buy it and take it. Let us stop from now going, don't take money. Just, if it is cement, carry a lorry of cement, and you will know, I have donated my cement. I will see it on the wall. And at that time, if I do that, I will share it, because in our churches we have jumuiyas. I will share it with my jumuiyas. I will say the monies we were supposed to remove as jumuiyas, per jumuiya was this amount. And because I've brought in this, all jumuiyas, now we have lessened our burden, we can now contribute this. Mm-hmm. Let politicians do that. And let us now start going to our churches.
Okay.
Yes, they invite you, and you know the most challenging part of all this is, as much as you'll want to keep off, they say, like now I have so many invitations. I'm wondering, what do you tell our people? How do you tell it? So I want also my bishops, and I'm asking them in a very humble way, tell the congregation what they need to do. Mm-hmm. Yes, because if a jumuiya sends me a card and everything, it is the same money. I don't know how you will get the source. But now if I take it to my jumuiya, how will you'll still receive it at the end, at the top.
Okay.
So I want to say from today, all of us in parliament, go to church. The day you go to church, if a harambe starts, stop it. Because you did not come that day for a harambe, which I normally do. I normally say, but I didn't come for a harambe. I have come, I have sat behind. I had come to be blessed the way you are being blessed, so that my week becomes a week like any other.
Okay.
But then, if you want a harambe, bring me your BQ. I will pick one item as a Christian, and I will send it as a Christian. In that item, I will send it as what you need.
All right. Yes. Mheshimiwa, maybe incoming.
President.
Wakili Havi.
Incoming president.
To go for rice.
To go for rice.
Wakili Havi, this all began with a statement that was released by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, and they spoke about a culture of lies. The first response we got from the president was telling the Catholic Church not to become what they have accused his administration of, which is liars. Do you think this stemmed from that? Basically, what do you make of this? How the administration in office has responded to the Catholic Church in regard to these issues?
Look, Dr. William Samoei Ruto is my friend. You pick a war with the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, you will lose. And you lose terribly bad. It's as simple as that. Number two, the Anglican Church and the Catholic Church are the richest formations. In fact, these are not churches, they are enterprises. I'm an Anglican. When we want to construct a building there, people bring money, millions and millions of shillings. They do not need money from the president. It's as simple as that. Now, is the state in competition with the church? Yes, they are. And context is very important. What underlying factors brought us here? The Catholic Church came out with a very straightforward statement highlighting the pitfalls of this administration, which they were entitled to do. In fact, I was so much impressed. I've not been to the Anglican Church for the last 2 years. I think I'll have now to go back because now the church is doing the correct thing. And what happened? We saw these low-caliber leaders in Kenya Kwanza come out with unnecessary heat to insult these bishops. In fact, the bishops were called appendages of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and that was wrong. You don't do that. Then what follows next? And the president himself was very magnanimous because he owns a church. So he wouldn't have taken that position as taken by the low-caliber lieutenants. I wish they could only have been patient to let the president deal with the matter. They embarrassed the president. So this donation coming in light of what you said can erroneously be perceived as an inducement. And for good reason, the Catholic bishops came and said, no, return the money. We do not want to be seen as having been bribed. And Dr. David D went on Twitter and posted a photograph of certain Catholic bishops being given money. It was an insult. And if I'm a Catholic bishop, I'll demand that that money goes away. Because the president's chief advisor is saying we are capable of being bought. That is wrong. So going forward, and I don't think it's even an issue we need to discuss here, there is a law that prohibits state officers from making these contributions. It's day and light matter.
Okay.
It has to stop.
All right.
So if we have an agenda, let's go and argue an agenda on the basis of the manifesto. If we have a policy to implement as a government, we implement the policy. There are many governmental projects that require money. Churches are not one of those projects.
During the Gen Z protests I mentioned earlier, there was an outcry over politicians taking to the pulpit, people asking these harambes, where does that money come from? Are we reverting back to old habits? And it has not even been a year. Mheshimiwa Kagiri.
Thank you, Olive. For me, I'll first start by stating the Bible. I believe it's Proverbs chapter 11, verse something, where it says, God blesses generous givers. And I would want to also quote Psalms 25, verse 8, where again I say, God is fair and just. And sometimes I wonder why we all forget what we read in the scriptures. Because for me, I would want to say with utmost humility, I have never given to a church. I have never given to a bishop, a father, a reverend. I give to God. So it is not anybody to tell me when to give, when not to give. The Bible has already instructed me that I'm obligated with whatever I make, whatever income I get, I'm supposed to give a part of it to the church. And that is what I do. And in fact, I'm doing it directly to God. But what I would also want to add in this regard is I believe the government and the churches should not get into any battle. Reason being, there's so many things we've partnered with churches. Like now we have the churches having the mission hospitals, we have them having the schools. Unknown to many Kenyans, the church mission hospitals are serving more than 13 million Kenyans. That is not to ignore or wish away. And so I would believe as the government, we have to look for a way we are going to work with the churches. And I'm so glad the last meeting we had with the president as women leaders, he stated that the first money that is going to be collected with the SHA program, he's going to pay the mission hospitals. Because I believe that is another point of pain that the churches are having, where they serve the community, they serve Kenyans, they raise their claims, and their claims have not been paid a year or two later. So I believe there are so many things, I believe there are so many hidden problems that are also causing whatever is coming out to come out. Yeah.
Fred, I wonder what your position on the matter is. When this administration came into power, they kept singing Si Uchawi Ni Maombi. Now you have Kimani Ichung'wah, who is the majority leader, National Assembly, saying things like they have not even returned the money that they've said they will return.
You know, Olive, on 30th November, I made a tweet that is now turning out to be controversial, and it has attracted a lot of debate online, if you check it. And I said that, you know, the church the candidature of President William Ruto. They believed that President William Ruto was the best man for the job. They did so. And we could see the president, the then deputy president, was hosting them, and they prayed for him. And they believed that because of their prayer is when, or is how, President William Ruto won the election. Today, even before that, Honorable Ruto, the now president, supported churches then, and he has always maintained that he will always give. We must stop these habits of using politics to mask greed and dishonesty, particularly for the church. The church says that they questioned the source of the funds. The source of the funds is questionable. It means the money is tainted. Does the church know? And I'm speaking as a Christian. My mother is a good Christian, and we were brought up in a Christian family. So I believe.
They didn't necessarily say that the money was tainted.
I am saying the reason why the church now, the Catholic, are returning the money is because they are saying the source of the money could be from questionable sources. That's what they said. Who knows the source of the tithe and offering that we give as individuals when we go to church? Does the church know the source of your money? They know you are employed. But does the church know the source of the money that your employer pays you? They don't know. I believe that when you give to God because you are helping a cause. But I want to say that there is no need of the church and state coming at loggerheads. It's completely unnecessary. And that's why yesterday when I listened to our good professor, the Deputy President, Kithure Kindiki, say that there is need for the church and state to work together. I agree with him. I also believe that President William Ruto would want the church and the state to work together because these are the clergymen. They are men of God. They pray for us every day, and they would want this country to be peaceful and united. So, in this instance, when you decide to give as a politician, what I would encourage, give quietly and go home. Because the contest has been, those who give more, shout more. And they want everyone to know that they've given. But even when the church make a request, like I saw in Kajiado, I saw in where Lusaka was presenting, giving a presentation, it is towards a development in church, setting some bills, building some structures. It is good. However, why is the church also not going silent? When they receive in good faith, go silent and do the God's work with the money. Politician, when you give silently and go back home, so that we don't have this question of who gives, who doesn't give, will return, don't give us. Listen, when you receive money, by the time you receive that money only, You needed it. If you don't need it, don't receive it in the first place. And when you receive money and now you want to return it, don't ask how to return it. You know the channel you received it. Return it through the same channel.
All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Javas, if I remember my scripture correctly, your left hand should not know what your right hand is doing, right, when you're giving. Do you agree with Fred that that is the solution? Because Muslims also, I assume, contribute to build mosques. Is it that they don't stand on podiums and shout about it? Is that the answer? Such that it is between you and God?
Olive, like Timothy, who sat at the feet of Paul of Tarsus, I speak with the confidence of the tutelage I received from Canon Professor Bigambo, my own father, that always be truthful and be guided by the compass of Scripture. And I read somewhere within the covers of Scripture that do not go before the Lord empty-handed. I did not write the Bible. I speak the truth as it is. My hands are not white. They are only clean. I never lie. Secondly, like Vasco da Gama, who came before us, this push and pull between politicians and religious leaders has erected a pillar of sadness in my heart. It is important that leaders within society get to work together. I am persuaded by the confidence that I've seen and the humility in President William Ruto, saying that a nation should come together, that there is no need to have a tussle between religion or religious leaders and the state, and even with political leaders. I am even more enthused by the words of Professor Kindiki, who said that actually there is need for calmness and sobriety. And that's why I find congruence in the words of the poet, Aeschylus, that even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart. And in our silence, against our will, comes wisdom through the grace of God. I pray that leaders in this country, politicians, the religious leaders, get not to have a conference of sadness where they're exchanging at cross purpose through media. But if there is any issue that is pulling them apart, in that wisdom that comes through the grace of God, let them find a place behind the curtain and speak. Because they are leaders of society. The church is supposed to be the salt of the society. Secondly, and I think the issues that you said we will venture into, like Mheshimiwa Kagere has indicated, issues about the church, chances are they are tethered to the enterprises that they run. Could be hospitals, could be schools. And I know that faith-based hospitals are owed colossal amounts of money, which I've seen even the president has committed that they're going to be paid. And even through the State of the Nation address, he said that those monies are going to be paid. And we need to listen to that and say, okay, fine, then let that be paid, let that be settled, if that is the genesis of all this confrontation. But still, I would want to agree with the churches, like with every other person, that corruption must be fought from dawn to sunset. We must not have any graft in our system of governance, because that's why we even have such provisions in the Constitution.
When you talk about these issues should be resolved behind the curtain, a part of the criticism the church faced with the protests we saw was the church has not been speaking up. Well, and there were many leaders, church leaders from the past who are referenced saying, why can't you be more like these people in our history?
I will tell you just briefly, Olive, that there is no problem with the church speaking. The church should always speak at all times like the Constitution. But the church should not stand in the place of the opposition. The twist and approach that they took was political.
Correct.
So while the message was okay, the framing and the approach should not be as though they're standing in the gap where the opposition is there.
What was political about it?
Well, for example, when chastising leaders is not a problem, but for example, when they were talking about issues, extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances are things that we are concerned about as existing in society today. But the framing and the angle that they gave those issues, the church effectively was becoming an opposition coalition in the country today. The church should not play politics. The church should not be the opposition.
Let me ask
yes, I know the opposition is dead.
Because the criticism that also came out of that statement was where the legislature is concerned, that the legislature is not addressing the issues that you raised, Mheshimiwa Kagiri, issues affecting Kenyans. And they were saying you need to get back to that. Sorry, you look, Mheshimiwa Elache, are you okay? Why are you looking like you're squinting?
Because I'm wondering, as I pick from my brother, you see, when you come out as the church, who should be the heaven where I should be running to, and now you come out, as you say, and you speak as a politician, then the country gets more worried on how.
What is it that they said that was political? That's where I'm stuck.
You see, I don't want to say double.
Culture of lies.
Well, let me just say it, because I always say, in the end, it is us going to heaven, and all of us will face our Maker. That you needed to have looked 2 weeks ago what had just happened in my same church. You went somewhere, you were given land, so you need to return it. They need to return it. My church needs to return it. If this one of Soweto is an issue, 10 acres somewhere was given in a Catholic church, must be returned. Then you took quite some good sum of money. They need to return it. So when you come and forget to put in the statement all that, and you just pick this one, now you leave people wondering, okay, was that one okay? Is this one now the one that is wrong? And that's why I say you now become it's only politicians who play those dirty games there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would not want the church to go. That's why I said it is very sad when the king and the priest have decided now we are moving at a level where you cannot now start saying, let me run here, there's safeness. There's no safe net. I'm trying to look out a better word. But then all I'll say is that I want us to remember, because I know as a country we become very judgmental. Mm-hmm. But we are judgmental, but our Father in heaven, if indeed we are in the church, and we were yesterday in the church before we went to politics, mm-hmm. is that he tells us very well, do not judge because you don't know. And if I open the closets of all of us, we talk of corruption. Look at how on Sunday we are full in church. Full in church, all of us. And nobody here can point and tell God in his quiet place that indeed, Father, I've never done wrong to Kenya. Starting from taking a space that was of a child in Turkana, you've taken for your child to go to Alliance High School with wrong marks. That is corruption. Mm-hmm. Starting from just influencing at that level. People forget that is now the worst corruption, because this child grows up knowing, after all, I'll be given spaces as I move on. Mm. And so we point fingers. I want all of us as Kenyans to accept the culture of corruption. That demon is in all of us. How do we remove? Because we think.
My president is. Let's hear from. I'll come to you.
Let me finish. My president is doing like this.
Yes, I'm.
So as you become president alone, because now President William is president. Yes. So is he doing procurement in all the states of this country? But we have corruption, serious corruption. So my president wants to become president. I don't know whether he will kill all Kenyans and come with new ones who can now be good Kenyans, because the problem is not even the president. Uh-huh. You can be a good president, but the problem, the vice is in every sector. And we have devolved it now better.
All right.
So I don't know how any president, we must deal with it. And how you deal with it is what any president who wants to become president needs to start telling us.
All right. Former president, I saw your poster. Were you praying for God's grace, or what was happening?
I was a little bit perturbed, because you see, when the demons are in her midst, and there is a possibility they'll be cast out, I don't want to end up being the unfortunate pig that is the reception of these demons. But that said and done, I hold a platform here. This is what my constituents are telling me. They say, President earns 2 million a month. How can he donate 5 million every week? there is something called unexplained wealth. And Dr. William Samuel Ruto...
He's talked about eggs previously.
It's not me who's saying this, because I know the president is a big farmer. He's not a man of recent arrival. So, Captain, you've sent me this message, but you are erroneous. The president is a man of deep pockets, not just limited to his 2 million. I'm not also a man of shallow pockets. According to KRA, my worth is about 1.2 billion. So if you see me donate 5 million in charge, don't ask silly questions. So these questions are silly. But anyway, they've also asked, even Elachi, we know how much he earns.
Yeah.
You see, also Elachi is not a woman of mean means. But that said and done, I think we have done sufficient justice to this topic. It is prudent for all elected leaders, and this is what I want to do when I become president. I want to serve in accordance with the Constitution, in accordance with the will of the people. And this is why the youthful Kenyans demand alternative leadership. We've seen it across in Senegal. They have elected a gentleman younger than I by about 4 years. So why not do it today? And you see, when we have youthful leaders with projections on what is good for Kenyans, upon understanding the needs of the youthful voters, then we plan for 40 years. You can't expect these guys who are 55, 70, some about 80, to give us a projection of what your life will look like 20. I mean, at least God taking good care of myself, I have that projection.
Okay.
And when we do this, there will be no need for us to go and give donations in church. No need for us to go and give donations in schools. It doesn't happen in developed countries because taxes are sufficient to take care of important projects.
All right. Let me bring in Mheshimiwa Kagiri here. And you are asking, why are we discussing 2027? And it has now come back home. And the reason we are discussing 2027 is because the sentiment that was widely felt when Parliament was stormed during the Gen Z protests was that you are not listening to the people. And part of the statement that was made by the Catholic Church is that the expediency, and this is not verbatim, with which you ejected Rigathi Gachagua, the efficiency is the same efficiency that should be applied on issues like you raised, such as SHA, the Social Health Authority. Systems are not working. We keep being told, these are teething problems. Give us time. But what do you make of that sentiment that you're not dealing with the real issues as legislators? And so we are waiting and looking forward to the day when we will remove you from office come 2027.
Olive, it's also on this very show that Fred said, let's move on to the next topic. And it's also on this very show that Harvey has said, let's move on to the next topic. So I was also right to say, let's move on when I said that. But that said, I would not want to lose the thought on the churches as I conclude. And I would want to say, it's assumed that politicians are not spiritual, or they are rather not godly people. But today, allow me to sound like the spiritual leader here and refer everybody in this country to Psalms 133, verse 3, where it says, where there is unity, God commands a blessing. And even to our church leaders and to each one of us, let's ask ourselves, whatever action you're taking, are you directing the country towards unity or disunity? That said, you've asked the question about the Gen Zs. Oh, and one more point I needed to add. You said about the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. Can we also request our churches humbly, when you plan a Harambee, don't put our names on those cards. Let us give quietly as we are supposed to. Because the minute our names appear on the fundraising cards, people will ask, did Jane Kagiri send her money? Then they'll be told, yes, she sent 100,000. Yes, she sent 20,000. Again, the right hand has gotten to know what the left hand has done. So I would also hope those are precautions that the church will also take. All of you said we've not been listening, and the president stated in his State of the Nation address, and he said we have become listening leaders. But I would also want to add, in regards to the Gen Z protests, I keep telling my constituents and my county that lies went ahead of the truth. By the time we were voting yes for the finance bill, we had removed any controversial clauses that were on that finance bill, or anything that was not acceptable to Kenyans. But because there were people who were driving their own agenda, they went and said, let's reject it in totality. The day before yesterday, I had a farmer in my county saying, Jane, why don't you bring it to Parliament that we need to charge levy on imported onions from Uganda? So I asked this young man, did you ever read what was on the finance bill? For me, I was voting yes for imported food to be charged a levy. But on the ground, and to the liars, they told you that we were charging levies on the onions that you were planting in your own garden. We were charging levy for eggs coming from South Africa, China, and etc. Again, on the ground, you were all told that we were charging for an egg that is being hatched that morning, which wasn't the truth. Of course, we have all learned to listen. Even our constituents today are telling us, please tell us the truth as it is. Today, I listened to somebody talking about SHA and saying nobody should register on it. But when I look at it, it takes me back to the days when we were in school, Olive. There were students who used to tell us, let us not study, but at night they'll study. You won't study and you'll fail the exam because you followed them.
I was one of those.
Yeah, and clearly, our president here says he was one of those. So looking at the current situation, I'm listening to people saying, don't register yourself for SHIF or for SHA. And I look at the person speaking, he has a medical card hidden in his pocket, which covers him for over 30 million, that if he fell sick that very moment, he'd be rushed to the most prestigious hospital in the world. Here comes our Wanjiku on the ground, who previously NHIF used to only cover her from level 4 hospital. If I talk about my county, I would be talking about Nyahururu and Nanyuki hospitals. Think of a person who is coming from the farthest corner of Laikipia County. That's a person who will have to incur transport, a person who will have to lose on time because of the commuting they have to take. Today, SHA is coming and telling you, from the lowest level of the health facility, that's a dispensary. Today you can be treated and you walk away with the medicine that you're supposed to get. Those are the kind of benefits that SHA is going to give us. But people don't want to say that because of their political interests for 2027. Here on your TVs, Olive, you have always showed us incidents of people. Somebody who got sick or got an accident on Thika Road had to surpass so many hospitals because they cannot be covered by those hospitals in a case of an emergency. Today, SHA is telling you, you get an accident as long as you're a Kenyan. In an emergency situation, you're driven to the nearest hospital. It's going to cater for that claim from that hospital. Again, we've had...
How accurate is that, though? We've had complaints, and you say you're a listening government.
Yes.
But if you listen at, for example, what Kithure Kindiki was saying yesterday, it was an insistence of lazima isha work. But you have Kenyans who are saying there are certain services which are not yet covered. They're there on paper, but the treatment options are not yet in effect. There was a question of certain, levels in terms of referral, and there were some services which were not available at the primary level, and they could not be referred, although that I hear has been remedied, could not be referred to referral hospitals to address those issues on account of the challenges being faced at the primary healthcare facilities. Are you really listening if you're saying, lazima iwak?
Olive, I'll take you back to Vision 2030. We are 6 years to Vision 2030 being achieved. One of our plans in that Vision 20 was affordable health care. Today, we all want to talk about it cannot work, it cannot work. It must work, Olive, if we are going to achieve Vision 2030. In the same Vision 2030, we speak of affordable housing. It must work. We have no choice about it. So unless as a country we've now chosen to live without visions. So when we say it must work, it is true to the word that we made that proclamation 20-something years ago, and we have to work towards achieving that. And just as you said, in fact, you've confirmed you are a listening government. Because I told you earlier, NHIF used to only cater up to from level 4 hospitals upwards. That's level 4, level 5, level 6. So what was happening when they approved dispensaries and health centers to cater for our patients, they forgot that there is a Kenyan who lives next to Nanyuki Referral Hospital. This person doesn't need to go for outpatient all the way to a dispensary that is 20 kilometers away from them. So what they had done, they had approved inpatient and referrals on level 4 hospitals. But the minute they realized that people within that neighborhood who could require outpatient services, that is when that has been remedied. And now we don't have those challenges. And true to it, we are not saying it's a perfect system, but we are saying if this system works, it's going to be the most perfect health system that we're going to have, because everybody and anybody will be catered for. As I conclude, many people, and I would say God did this to me because he knew I was going to hold this position. I've had my dad suffer from cancer, and he eventually succumbed. Let me tell you, as you go to that ICU every morning, Olive, the first thing you do is pray God that he gets well. But in the evening before you leave, you have to pass by the account's office to check where the math is at on that particular day. And that bill spirals like crazy. For me, I was in position to have friends who would support me, and we didn't have to do a fundraising. But I picture myself and ask, what about somebody who doesn't have those kind of friends who would support them to fundraise for such cases? What happens to those people? They end up losing their property. Again, SHA is telling you, we no longer have to do that. We will come together as a country and support it. And Olive, as I conclude, I see so many things said about members of parliament and how greedy we are and all that. Today, my deduction for SHA is 27,500, up from 1,500 per month. Again, for me, where I would never complain about that deduction is because, just as I've told you, I would never want somebody to experience what I did. If my 27,000 is going to ensure somebody does not lose their property, so be it. If 27,000 will also ensure that every day I don't have to be in fundraisings for patients in my county, again, I won't mind that deduction.
Right. Fred, I'll ask you to come in on this point of listening government. And I was listening to Rigathi Gachagua yesterday, and he talked about how part of the reason he was ejected from office is that he is a listening guy. He would listen to the ground. He would transmit that message to the president, and he would not be taken at his word. And whatever his advice was would fall on deaf ears. So he said affordable housing. He said, leave that to the private sector. And he says he communicated the same to the presidency, and he was criticized for not helping launch affordable housing projects. He talked about SHA, and he said people are being deducted, but they're not receiving services at health facilities. What do you make of his statements?
First of all, Olive, I think this bench today is a very good one, this panel, because it has spiritual leaders, it has philosopher, it has a president, and as Mama Dago here, who is also a spiritual leader, woman leader. And I think I'll volunteer to be the Mtoto Misa. But having said that, we say that... no, it's okay. we say that church, being a community of God, and the people in it must be corrupt-free. They must not be corrupt people. And that's why you see the church coming out to speak about all these things. When I listen to them, they have said that nothing is working. They have actually accused the president and Kenya Kwanza government for lying. But listen, you have referred me to statements by a gentleman who fashioned himself as a truthful man. Mm-hmm. I listened to Mr. Rigathi Gachagua's interview last evening, and I must say it was grossly underwhelming, because this is a gentleman who your team covered numerous times promoting the advancement of SHA, SHIF, affordable housing, and many other government projects. Yesterday, he came out and said that some of these things, he told the president that they are not good. So I asked myself, why is Mr. Rigathi lying? And he has fashioned himself as a truthful man. If you go back to November 28th, 2023, Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, in one of his functions, told the public and the world that he would encourage the people to invest in the affordable housing. And he told them that this is the best thing. Yesterday, he flipped. So all along, he has never been a truthful man. But I want to say that when you want to grow a country, and we are happy, as a country, we have a progressive constitution. And I want to refer you to Article 43 that has given what is called economic and social rights. Therein, we have got the right to attainable and the highest standard of health, including productive health. We have got affordable housing. We have got clean water. We have got freedom from hunger. And therefore, it is prudent for the government of the day to ensure that they do everything possible to provide those needs, those economic needs that Honorable Jenny is talking about. In my view, I think that this SHA shift lacks efficient communication. The president acknowledged that his team has failed him. He acknowledged that for a very long time, he has been a lone communicator. Honorable Jen, please help the president. You are his foot soldiers. Communicate the shift SHA, communicate the affordable housing, communicate these mega projects that the government are doing so that the people can understand them. Because if you don't communicate them, then the president will look for people who can communicate them outside. And that's why he has tapped people from ODM and Azimio to help him communicate. Look at what Mbadi is doing. Look at what Oparanya is doing. Right. Communicate the issue of cooperatives, SMEs, and he's doing a good job. Okay. And I want to thank them. But now, as I finish, I am convinced, Olive, that the people need more, and they're entitled to more. What we are suffering from today is we have a majority that are not able to access services in the manner they want it. And that's why there's this restlessness. We look at the government and look at it in a manner that we don't like it. We have doubts. But look, the people who voted for this government more are crying more. Why? Because they never believed in it. They were playing politics. So next time when you're voting, please vote for a political formation that you believe in.
Okay.
For us from Azimio, we have said we shall help them.
Is there still an Azimio?
And if they cry, we shall help them cry. But what we will not do, we will not go and hate President Ruto because they hate President Ruto. We will not go and hate anyone because they hate him.
Okay.
We will help this country grow. And one way of helping this country grow, we must first be united. Then, after being united, we must do the right thing. The right thing is to ensure that there are structures in place that offer services to the extent that is possible to the common man.
All right.
That is bottom line.
Okay. There's been the repeat of united. There are those who argue there cannot be unity with just without justice.
Which question was he answering?
All right.
I was laying ground for the question so that he can pick my points and go on campaign. He has refused to take notes.
Javas, Rigathi Gachagua served as the second in command, and he is telling us this is not a listening administration. Your thoughts?
Olive, I listened to the vacillating ex-deputy president speak last evening. And I think I did not find anything enthusing or magical or new out of what he said, like a genie out of Aladdin's lamp. Nothing at all. In fact, what I saw is an image of the imagery deceptor in biblical scripture, or the split-tongue deceptor who deceived Eve. Why is ex-deputy president Rigathi Gachagua having a split tongue like a snake? Because he's speaking with both sides of his mouth. If anything, last night when what I watched was a man speaking with water in the mouth. Look, Olive, as a matter of fact, didn't we see him vociferously campaigning and speaking about government projects and policies, which he defended firmly? We did. With our own eyes. You watched him many times with your 2 eyes. I have 4. So I even saw better. Another thing is that when you look at matters to do with social health, let's face it, when you look at level 2 hospitals, level 3 hospitals, and the hospitals that 85% of Kenyans go to across the 47 counties, they don't go to elevated hospitals or the referral hospitals, majority of them, or the private hospitals like Rigathi Gachagua went to Karen Hospital when you could not go to the Senate. Let's face it, that many people who are suffering from hypertension, diabetes, and all these challenges that we're facing today due to issues of modern times, those mothers from poor families who have to go to nursing homes, the maternity clinics in the neighborhoods, social health centers like the one in Nambale or Madende, or even one in Kilifi, or even where Madam Elachi and Madam Jen preside over as leaders of the people. These people need facilities. Now, when you look at social health, as a matter of fact, let's face it, many of these people who are campaigning against social health authority, they are doing so because they are very comfortable socioeconomically, a number of them. A number of them because they know they're not facing any critical ailment at the moment. If they do, they would think otherwise. Look, think of a mother who's delivering triplets. And many times, even here in Nairobi, here in Pumwani, how many times have we seen mothers struggling just to pay amount that they're supposed to pay to leave hospital after delivery, after maternity services? How many? When I saw, for example, Governor Sakaja launch a facility for, for spectacles in Umoja, and you could see that people are going there even for surgery for free. And these things that make life different for people in this country. Now, let's face it as well. Another thing to do, for example, with social health, we need to see political leaders being truthful and authentic and coming out to defend, stand for, and progressively encourage people to sign up or register for social health. As I finish, I'll say this. Statesmanship is not a product of deception, is not a product of being a champion of ethno-regional supremacy battles. It is a product of valor and value and patriotism. Let Rigathi Gachagua be a truthful man, not a deceptive man.
You'll give the president some 1 minute.
I will. Yeah. But Mheshimiwa Lachi, something else that came up during the discussion was the state of the economy. And Cabinet had released a statement talking about how inflation is at the lowest since the Kibaki era. The dollar exchange rate is low, and so the economy is on sound footing, again in response to that statement from the Catholic Church. But Rigathi Gachagua yesterday says all you have to do is go downtown. And people, I mean, those who own those properties are not even asking, according to him, for goodwill. And he says that is enough indicator that the economy is not doing well.
Well, first of all, let us agree. You know, one of the things we've blocked our minds for a few years after COVID is to allow everyone to accept that the consequences of COVID was tough to everyone. So if you find any leader trying to ignore that in a pillar of economy, then you are not a leader. Because you know very well we closed 2 to 3 years completely. And you want to tell me this country in all the world, and that's why the whole world, I mean, look at Nigeria. I mean, Kenya is talking, Nigeria fuel is 345 per liter, and that's where fuel is. Look at their naira, look at their dollar. So one of the things we must appreciate, and that's why I always say, as Kenyans, I know, yes, we are so harsh on ourselves, but we refuse to just appreciate our neighboring countries are the same. But you find there are people moving, and they are going through the same challenges we are. In fact, we are much better, because the other day in Burundi, I realized they have no fuel, and you don't have foreign exchange. So what are those people saying in that country? But having said that, that does not mean we must kill our country and finish it. But first of all, to appreciate that, yes, we are growing. Definitely, you know, even when Kibaki came into power, remember there was a time the economy, at the macro level, it was growing. But at that time, things were not very good also down. But we moved. And that's why I have said, and I want to repeat here, 2025, we come back on this show, let us now criticize our country and say, look, this inflation we are talking about, all these things, because in 2025, February, March, you will see everything come to now appreciate that, yes, now down is feeling what we were saying, what government is saying. Okay. But the other thing we need to tell ourselves is this thing of SHA. You see, all of us, I will say we have done wrong as politicians. Anything in this country, even NHIF, for it to work, we went vigorous campaign. We went and put desks in just the same way we do voter registration. That is what we need to do to our citizens. Right. So that when we are coming here to complain, we are saying, yes, I have registered in Dagoretti North 19, 20, 100,000 people. But this is what we are going through. They are going to hospital. They are not receiving any treatment. They are being told to pay. Today, I won't say the name. I met a girl, gave birth. Her baby is going to 1 year now. She has a heart problem. Every clinic she goes, she pays 19,000. And the most sad part is that the doctor has said cannot take even her insurance, because insurance are taking too long to pay. Now, why SHA would benefit, and I told her, go to Kenyatta and register this morning, SHA. Because at least SHA, in 30 days, immediately, the hospital is paid. But the challenges we are also facing is that we have some hospitals who up to now, I know, have not registered, first of all, to be in the system of SHA. And some of them are private hospitals, and they are really, they know if this works, then there will be a problem. So in Kenya, what we normally do, when we don't like something, when we decide this has been our fodder, where we've been making money, and now something is about to remove that, we now create something we call it is not working. Mm-hmm. We are the ones fighting it. We are not fighting it in good faith. We are fighting because it has now brought another competition in me, and the monies I've been receiving, I might not receive. Okay.
I'll ask Harvey, Mheshimiwa Kagiri, Fred, and Javas in a minute each, please, because on account of time, your closing remarks.
Look, Kenyans, where's my camera? This one. This is very important. We've failed hitherto because the current government of President Dr. William Ruto intended to do great things. You do not do great things with many people. They'll distract you. We will fail because we've incorporated ODM, we've incorporated everybody. People would not share in our ideas. The Gen Z movement that culminated on the 25th of June is an indicator that we need a paradigm shift. We need somebody who will be able to do great things with few people. That person is Nelson Harvey.
All right.
Thank you, Olive. As I conclude, I want to state when I first joined Parliament, and I believe it's on the Hansard, I stated that every 5 years we need to have something. I believe my legal friends here would advise me how to go about it, where the president states the book of accounts of the country as he exits. Because I believe if Kenyans had been told the truth from the word go in 2022, we should have known we were in a very bad debt situation. And when we keep saying the economy is not doing well, I think we forget our own households.
Didn't Rigathi tell us that there kuna pesa?
He told us, but I don't know why people would want to forget that that is the current situation we are still in. We are not yet out of debt. So what I want to, my line of thought was that we need to practice what we actually practice in our own homes. When I'm in debt, I won't go buying a new stool. I won't go buying a new table. I will first clear that debt. And that is what we're exactly experiencing as a country. We are in so much debt that the development we expect instantly may not work out until we get out of this debt. As I conclude, let me say, and I'll call on my brother Fred, it is not the president to communicate the good agenda he has for this country, and especially in matters regarding SHA. Fred, in your own community or locally where you come from, they look at you on TV. And every time there's a fundraising, they'll say, have you called Fred? So help the president to help yourself. Jane Kagiri, help the president to help myself, that our people need to be all registered when they're in times of need. They need to be well taken care of. Thank you.
All right. Fred?
Honorable Jane Kagiri has asked me to help the president. I want
to help yourself.
The president, to help myself. The president of the Republic of Kenya, we have now acknowledged you are the president. You have put up a team that you believe is going to help you. Even though Nelson Harvey, former LSK president, believes that you should not bring people together, we want to ask you, Mr. President, revisit the provisions of law that require that your cabinet, your executive, must reflect the regional and ethnic diversity of the people of Kenya. Therein, you will have people, all hands on deck, because where we are today, we need everyone, everybody, every expert to do the job. The job that we want done is the job that will secure lives, the job that provide employment, food, water, and healthcare that is working. That is what we want to see. And Mr. President, the country is willing to help you.
All right. Javas.
Olive, you know, time is a generous mother and will afford us many moments to see that actually we are moving from all these tumultuous times to times when we shall say policies that were implemented actually began to work and impact the lives of the people. It is time that the president should have his cabinet secretaries out of their warm, comfortable desks and get to work. Pull up their socks from around their anklets, fold their sleeves and work. That's what is needed. Let cabinet secretaries speak coherently about government policies. Correct. Let me tell you, I have not been moved in a long time than I could see even some ODM cabinet secretaries now stand to defend policies more than even those Kenya Kwanza cabinet secretaries. That's true. That's a fact. We need to have them come out. Secondly, let principal secretaries, let directors in ministries also do their work, not in sabotaging, but helping policy implementation. As a matter of fact, Olive, policy formulation and implementation is not easy. It is convoluted, it's tough, it's complicated, it takes time also to implement. And of course, we know it's not a plug-and-play thing, that the moment a policy has been enacted and a new legislation in place, then tomorrow it works effectively. Okay. So with that appreciation, I am confident that there is every good intention in the policies being formulated and that in the not-too-distant future, we are going to see an economic and better country in terms of turnaround, that this country is, this Commonwealth, Olive, this patch of earth called Kenya, is going to be one of the finest still on the continent.
Okay. Olive, allow me just to congratulate Namibia for bringing in their 5th president, Madam Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. She's a pure lawyer.
Can we just quickly run through the feedback? Do we have just a minute to do that? All right, here we have Lindsay Tirop, who says, the notion of bringing everyone's ideas on board while systematically excluding the voices of the ordinary citizens is both hypocritical and alarming. A broad-based government that claims to salvage the country cannot ignore the very people it purports to represent. Next. Frank Orinde, who says the church is calling out the government over corruption, accusing leaders of turning a blind eye to graft. Government officials argue the church should focus on spiritual matters. Someone remind government officials of Psalms 15:2-5. Corruption is condemned in the Bible. Bob Otieno, we know donations coming in as the name of Sadaka after criticism from the church was wrongly timed because it was seen as a bribe to silence them. Dixon Olwach says, Olive asked Javas, why was the word opposition omitted in the 2010 constitution? SHA is good on paper until you go to the hospital. Everything is rejected by private hospitals. Kenya is not divided. Bob Jama says, Kenyan citizens' demands are clear: economic reforms, improved tax system, increased accountability, a working health system, and reducing government waste. There are more pertinent issues than ODM joining government and church being at war with government. All right, that concludes Daybreak. Bob agrees with you there. Mheshimiwa Kagiri, Beatrice Elachi, Member of Parliament, Dagoretti North. We've also had in studio Nelson Havi, former LSK President, Jane, and he says incoming President of the Republic of Kenya. We also have Jane Kagiri, who is a woman representative like Kipia, Fred Okango, political analyst, Javas Bigambo, governance analyst. My name is Olive Burrows. Good morning.